what is the Bank for International Settlements? Well, I always say it's the most important bank in the world that you've probably never heard of.
I think the best way to think about them is a bank for central banks.
The central bank of central banks, exactly.
Most people think about the financial system and they just think about, the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Treasury, and that's where they think it stops. But we live in a very globalized world, and there's these organizations that are filled with unelected, they're non-governmental. Like, I didn't vote for anybody at the Biz, but they work in this stratosphere, like above everything else.
Historian Carroll Quigley wrote in his epic book, Tragedy and Hope, the Bank for International Settlements was part of a plan to, quote, create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole, to be controlled in a feudalistic fashion by the central banks of the world, acting in concert by secret agreements.
The real reason it was set up was so that central bankers, i.e. the governors of national banks like the Bank of France, the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve and so on, could have a place to meet that was supremely protected and legally inviolable.
Every 2 months, the BIS organizes a meeting weekend, and today all of the central bank governors who are members of the BIS are attending. Main purpose of BIS meetings is to build consensus among central banks and supervisory authorities.
And so there's 63 member banks, which make up 95% of GDP. I picture like an octopus. I know it sounds funny, but who has tentacles, who just moves everything around for these central banks and above them.
I had an org chart of the way I see the world, and on the org chart, the BIS sits at the top. Below the BIS, then you have some of these think tanks. So the World Economic Forum is one of them, the Club of Rome. And so they're the policy makers. And then they push it down to the next row in the org chart to the policy enforcers, which are the governments.
They are a bank beyond the reach of any national or international law. And it's because they are set up under international treaty.
Have you ever thought much about, say, digital currencies or the impact of negative interest rates on the economy? Well, these are just some of the topics that are discussed here.
In 1947, basically there was an agreement made between central banks that they wouldn't transact between each other directly. They would work through the Biz.
The thing about the Biz is that they're focused on improving the transaction capabilities of international finance. So when the Biz looks at the CBDC, they're like, this is finally it.
The rise of crypto over the last several years has been a remarkable spectacle. It highlights the place of technology in the popular imagination and its galvanizing role in debates on the shape of things to come. So in this respect, crypto offers a tantalizing glimpse of new arrangements and technical features. But as we argue in the chapter, everything that can be done with crypto can be done also with central bank money.
This is Augustin Karstens. He's the head of the Bank of International Settlement.
My main message today is simple. The soul of money belongs neither to a big tech nor to an anonymous ledger. The soul of money is trust. And central banks have been and continue to be the institutions best placed to provide trust in the digital age.
While potentially hundreds of millions of people are on the brink of starvation around the world right now, the direct result of the monetary policy from central banks all around the globe, he's sitting here telling us central banks are the only people we can trust while using a money printer as a background.
Our vision for the future monetary system, as laid out in Chapter 3, is the fusion of enhanced technical capabilities around the core of the trust provided by central bank money.
CBDCs don't really work unless everyone's on like kind of a digital ID system. It's kind of like a precursor.
We don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that.
And so I can see the direction we're heading, and I'm certainly going to make sure I keep as much wealth outside the traditional financial system as possible.
I don't think the path forward is to like win over the regulators. We have here unstoppable financial systems that are uncensorable. We should be relying on that.
There are just too many opportunities for people to embrace technology in this way that flips the script.
Crypto is a great equalizer, right? If you fix money, you allow the world to heal. And we have lived in a world of sick money for many decades.
The legacy banks, legacy financial institutions, writings on the wall, and we'll see kind of how it plays out.
Yeah, they're in trouble. And I'm so inspired really by all the awesome entrepreneurs in this industry that are building this stuff. I'm proud to be part of it.